Good afternoon, everyone. It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Tuesday afternoon. Lately, my Teen Mom OG recaps are getting sidelined by Amber Portwood's story because in last night's episode, there was some more details revealed about Amber Portwood's arrest on July 5th that deserve their own stream. Today, we're going to talk about what was discussed on the show last night and talk a little bit more about what's going on in the media as we speak related to this case, related to some he said, she said, and some interviews that are going out of the gate about all these different people. So last night was the season finale of the Teen Mom OG episode, or season 10, I think. Either way, this has been a long season, you guys. There have been so many twists and turns, and we got a sneak peek into what happened after and leading up to the incident that happened on July 5th. So, according to Amber on the show, she was struggling with issues related to her illness. She told a psychiatrist in the appointment that she was on the verge of sort of a ticking time bomb. She was agitated, angry. She was picking fights with Andrew, she said. She was dealing with a lot of issues related to her inability to cope, and she was being set off by a lot of things. She told her psychiatrist that Andrew often makes jokes when she's trying to talk with him about what's going on with her, and she finds it inappropriate, which leads to arguments. However, she also admitted that in the same appointment with her psychiatrist that Andrew is a good boyfriend, that she loves him very much, that it would be horrible if she sabotaged her relationship. After the episode finished, she gets into the car. Andrew picks her up with James, and she talks with him about what's going on with her mental health. She says she's exhausted and she's tired and she's struggling to deal with what's going on. And Andrew makes a joke, and then she gets irritated at him for making a joke. She tells him that she just wants him to be there for her and help her feel better. They get home, and then her cousin Crystal comes over in a later scene where she discloses to her cousin Crystal the same thing, that she's been fighting with Andrew a lot related to what she finds as inappropriate responses to her issues with her mental illness. Interestingly, and I don't even know why this is done this way, but Andrew's point of view in all of this is never considered. Other spouses or other partners are asked questions by production and given sort of like, how are you feeling about this? What do you think about this? And there's really nothing at all from Andrew, which is kind of concerning. The only time that he's on the screen is when Amber's there. And it's weird because, like, in the case of, like, Ryan Edwards, Mackenzie will speak for him all the time and talk about what's going on when Ryan's not being filmed. So I find it odd that they wouldn't include Andrew's point of view in all of this. But it is her show, as she's made clear abundantly online and on other reality TV shows, including Marriage Boot Camp, where they actually met in 2017. Now, after all of this was said and done, they cut to the end. And at the end of the episode is when you finally start seeing what's going on. Now, cameras weren't there to film because production had already wrapped on the season. Therefore, they had to piece together what happened. And what they did was they had sirens playing in the background. And then while they did, they showed all the different headlines related to the July 5th incident, including everything that we've talked about on this channel. Then, rather than bringing Amber on the screen, they actually have Gary Shirley and Christina there. And I actually think that this is maybe the best aspect of this, because this was the first time we actually hear from Gary and Christina and hear about what happens and how these incidents actually impact the kids. Because what's being lost here in all of this is that there are two children that now are living without a mother. And that's 2 families now that have been impacted by choices that she has made due to her mental health. And Gary was pretty, trying to think of this delicately. Christina was emotional, very emotional. They were filmed eating dinner at a restaurant. Christina looked like she was fighting back tears and seemed very upset, most concerned for Leah. And that was Gary's issue too. But then Gary actually showed a lot of empathy because he was really concerned about James. And there was very little discussion about Amber, but rather how Amber's continued poor choices affect everyone around her. So I have some information about, so Gary actually it opens up by Gary saying that if anything is true from what I've heard, there have been there need to be some sort of repercussions for something. He's saying one thing and she's saying one thing, and a hit's a hit, whether you do it with a flip-flop or with a hammer. He then turned the conversation and he said, I mean, this has an impact on all of us. She didn't just affect her own self and her own family, it trickles down to us too, because he's talking about Leah. Then Christina was saying that, Christina said, it's heartbreaking. I know, it's flipped the world upside down of everyone that's involved. How do we continue to co-parent with, the legal issues involved and Leah's emotions? I know that you're taking this pretty hard too. Gary actually responded by reflecting on what happened to him in 2011 and her subsequent arrest in 2012 and her 17 months away. He said, my heart hurts for the kids. I went through this with her. Leah went through this with her. And now it sounds like James is going to have to go through this too. When Gary was actually saying these things to Christina, he was visibly upset. Gary doesn't get emotional very often, but you could tell that this was bothering him. He always seems to be pretty stoic. And if you've seen a lot of Gary since his relationship with Christina, and if you haven't, I can tell you that his wife Christina seems like an incredible woman. She has been a very stable force for Leah. She has been the mother figure in Leah's life that she doesn't get with her own mother, Amber. Between Gary and Christina, they are raising Amber, Christina's daughter from a previous marriage, and then their own daughter, Emily. Now, Christina is very close to Leah, and Leah is very close to Christina, which is amazing because Leah does not have that same relationship with her mother. And Christina just said, I wish we could just wake up and say this was all a dream. She then went on to say, I mean, ultimately, Leah is almost 11 years old. She knows a lot of what's going on. I think the only thing that she said to me, though, was, if mommy goes back to prison, what will happen to James? Will James be taken away from me as well? I don't have those answers, and I don't know how to answer her. She deserves to be a kid, and these are adult situations. Think of how heartbreaking this is for Leah. This is going to be the second time in her life that this has happened to her. She lost her mother when she was only 1 or 2 years old, when Amber decided to go away to prison rather than complete drug rehab. She spent 17 months away from Amber at that time. During that time, Gary was awarded full custody of Leah. She was released in 2013, but since her release, she has never gained primary custody of Leah since. And since her release in 2013, she has not had very consistent visits with her mother. Gary has talked a lot about this on Teen Mom. In fact, this year he was talking about how Amber wanted more visitation with him. And he said that his apprehension is that Amber has a tendency to want to make plans and then break plans, or want to see Leah without any sort of notification or any notice. And that's hard because they have a family and they have their own life they need to figure out. And then he just talked about how it's hard on Leah because then she gets her hopes up and then she doesn't see her mom, and then she doesn't see her mom for long periods of time. When they visited on James's birthday, they actually attended James's first birthday party. It was clear that Gary doesn't go to their house, Amber's house, and he asked Amber if Leah had a bedroom there. But Leah doesn't spend the night very frequently with her mother. So it's clear that Gary has done his best to sort of shield his daughter from all of this. And, you know, it's got to be tough for him because now he's watching this play out to a second man and a second child. And he already knows what this has done to his own daughter. And now his own daughter has to go through this a second time. I think a lot of times we get sensitive and we consider like what Amber's going through. And we really don't talk about how this is affecting the children. And as sensitive and sympathetic that we want to be to what she's going through, she's also a grown adult who has chosen to have two children, who has complained all season about having to do anything that revolves around being a mother. She complains about not getting enough sleep, having to take care of her son, having to feed the baby, having to do all these things that are like normal parts of being a mother. Her complaints, I guess, on one hand are like, yes, it's hard being a mom. It's hard not to get sleep. I have not had sleep in like 6 years. It's why I use a really good concealer. Otherwise, you would see my bags. Part of adapting as an adult, it means that you have to put yourself second sometimes to the wants and needs of your children. And Amber just hasn't been able to do that. She hasn't been able to take the steps to do what she needs to do. Andrew has been outspoken since all of this happened, saying that, and even in court documents, saying that his attempts to get her on her medication did not work. She was resisting treatment and recommendations by doctors. He tried to get MTV production to help her. He said no one would help her. And this is what happened. She admitted on this season that she sometimes doesn't take her medication. I've spoken to people that know Amber that have told me that she is not good about taking her medication. And that's not uncommon with her disorders, but it's also an indication that she isn't fit at this point in time to be a parent. So as we go back and forth and we say, like, he said, she said, I think the biggest picture we all need to remember is that there's an 11-year-old little girl that's preparing to lose her mother for a second time. Amber's court case actually has a pretrial hearing on Thursday. She actually doesn't have to appear before the court. This is going to be just with attorneys. And there are 3 charges against her that carry big sentences. She is a convicted felon, and because of that, she could potentially be going away for up to 7.5 years if she's convicted and if the judge decides to run the crimes concurrently, meaning they could go one after another. And because she's a repeat offender, they very well could do that. They tend not to be as lenient the second time around. Indiana is also a 3 strikes you're out state, and she already has 2 strikes. So if even one of these sticks, she's going away. And I think people connected to her realize that. Now, in the middle of all of this, Amber continues to be fighting back and forth with Andrew. She has said that there are issues related to he cheated on her. And in next week's clip for the reunion, there's a teaser which says, has Dr. Drew asking her, like, oh, so he was cheating on you, or he has someone else. And she said everything lines up to a T. Now in the media, Amber is like accusing him of stealing money. This is the same MO that she had with Matt. Now, Matt wasn't a good guy, but Matt and Andrew appear very different. Matt was certifiable. Andrew does have a past and he has his own issues, but at the same time, he also seems to have sort of picked up the pieces and tried to make this work. But because of her power and influence, Andrew and anyone that gets involved with her is in an inferior position. And you have to imagine that anytime one partner has more power, it creates an imbalance in the relationship. And so she's using her ability and her clout as a celebrity to smear him, even though he's not the one that's in trouble. So she's accusing him now of taking money out of their joint account and saying that he provided all of the money to her, and that, there's so many different issues going on here. And Andrew is actually speaking out and calling it this. I'll show you a picture. On Instagram, this was what Andrew said today. Emotional abuse cuts to the very core of a person, creating scars that may be longer lasting than physical. With emotional, the insults, insinuation, criticism, and accusations slowly eat away at the person's self-esteem until they are incapable of judging the situation realistically. Amber's response on Instagram was typical fashion, and she said, "Every night I sit and I think about my life and my children. Never once have I stopped. Not once have the last 2 months. Foolish people, that's all I see. And there's the beautiful souls who know better and always send love no matter what." She also shared a quote that said, "Strange times are these in which we live when old and young and taught falsehoods in school. And the person that dares to tell the truth is called at once a lunatic and fool." And then she shared this story, which says, "Today I choose joy." Now on Twitter, the responses weren't as favorable to Amber. When I did a quick search, nearly everything was pretty critical of what she was doing, telling her that she wasn't helping herself by just sitting on her couch and not doing anything productive. One person pointed out that this is exactly what she did with Matt in the end of their relationship. And this fan actually pointed out something very clear. She says, "For over a year, Amber told everyone how great Andrew was and how he was perfect. Now that he has filed charges, he's a cheater and a thief." So was Amber lying for the last year, or is she lying now? So that is a very valid statement. Is that up until this point, she literally was telling family and friends he was the most amazing man. On Momcation, she talked about all of the gifts and the flowers and all of the love and all of the support and everything that this man did for her, and how lucky she felt to finally have someone good that she felt valued her and made her feel good and gave her a sense of security. But as she deteriorated, she admitted to her own psychiatrist that she would, if not getting better, sabotage this relationship. And her psychiatrist shared that this is an aspect of her BPD that's not uncommon, and that they love someone intensely one moment and then that person becomes an enemy. So Andrew spoke out because she has been using the media to attack him. He said that the financial abuse and familial mindset of Amber has never been more clear than it is now. Any and all money coming in, even in my name, belonged to her, and how she saw it. She's made that very clear, and the threats were a constant part of her life. "I wanted a happy family, whereas she was more concerned with her own agenda, and her actions have proven exactly that. I put everything into the family account because I wanted a happy and provided for life. All profits went into the family account and spent on family travels, health expenses, Amber's jewelry and clothing, food, and life." And a source connected to Amber says, that thinks of Andrew as family and is naturally a very given and generous person. So she just wanted to be able to fully trust and not worry that large sums of money were going to go missing. There is still love between these two, as ugly as things have gotten. She said Portwood was suspicious of Glennon because they had money moving out of accounts unauthorized, and insisted on removing all of the money from a joint account and buying a safe. Now, Andrew said that she was actually an erratic spender that spent thousands upon thousands of dollars on clothing online for her wardrobe for teen mom, and she wouldn't return it. She would buy it all online. If something didn't fit, she would just throw it into a pile. She has bipolar, and if you're not treating bipolar, mania can cause you to do pretty impulsive and erratic things, including overspending. So that could be very true. And she could also be overspending when she's in a manic state and not remember. There's a lot that has to be like gently sort of reminded here that whether you like Andrew or not, he is the person in an inferior position. He doesn't have the same power or celebrity. He doesn't have the same access to resources or income. And we've seen over the years that Amber is a very domineering partner that kind of railroads every single person she's with and is overly self-centered and narcissistic. Now, that doesn't mean Amber's a bad person. It just means that she might not be the best spouse or partner, and she's not clearly doing what she needs to be a good mom. So this will be interesting how this all plays out. I think really and truthfully, the real tragedy in all of this are the children. So remember tonight when you're fighting online about this or picking sides that there's a couple kids in this world that are sad tonight because mommy isn't there, and they're not going to have mommy probably for a long time. All right, you guys, I'll be back this afternoon with some updates on the Chrisleys. We've got news from Lindsay Chrisley and Savannah Chrisley related to their arrest, the parents' tax evasion case. And as always, if there's something that you need to tell me about, make sure to leave me a message on Facebook, Instagram, or on Twitter. Please know I'm getting a lot more comments and long emails, which are fantastic. If I don't respond to you guys right away, please know I'm doing my best. I am doing all of this myself, including managing my content on Pathios, uploading multiple videos each day on YouTube, and then trying to sort through my social media. I don't have any staff yet. Maybe one day, but at this point, I'm not profitable yet. So be patient. If I don't respond, it's not because I'm ignoring you. I just literally haven't seen it yet. Also, make sure you check out my communities tab every day for new articles. Today, I posted a link to an article about Noah McAdams and a case going on in Florida. If you have been following my streams on that, check the article out. And as always, make sure you're kind to one another and hug your kids a little bit tighter. Bye, everyone.